There's this quiet feeling, a sense of unease, that millions of people carry silently inside. It's a feeling so deep and so persistent that most have learned to hide it, even from themselves. It's the nagging feeling that you don't quite belong here, that somehow, somewhere along the way, you ended up in the wrong world, in the wrong time, among people who seem to operate by rules you just never understood. If you've ever looked around at society, at this rat race, and felt like you were watching a movie that makes absolutely no sense, if you've ever sat in a room full of people and felt more alone than when you are by yourself, if the things that excite everyone else leave you strangely empty, then this message is for you. I want to share something with you today that most spiritual mentors will not say directly, something that might finally explain why you have always felt different, why no matter how hard you tried to fit in, something inside you always resisted, always knew that the game everyone else was playing was somehow not your game. But here's the paradox that will change everything. That very feeling that you do not belong in this world is actually the first sign that you are beginning to remember what you truly are. Stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal will transform how you see yourself forever. Eckhart Tolle would emphasize this truth. Let's begin with a simple observation. Watch how most people live their lives. They wake up, they check their phones, they worry about money, status, what others think of them. They chase pleasure, they avoid pain. They accumulate things, they compare themselves to others. They live almost entirely in their thoughts, in mind clutter, in stories about the past and future. And here's what's remarkable. Most of them never question any of this. They accept this as simply how life is. They believe the voice in their head is who they are. They believe the external world is the primary reality. They believe that success is having it all. They believe that happiness comes from buying happiness. Now, if you're watching this video, chances are you've already begun to see through some of these illusions, not because someone told you to, but because something inside you simply could not accept them as true. Something inside you has always known that there must be more to existence than this endless chase, this constant doing, this perpetual becoming. Eckhart Tolle believes that this is a vital step in the awakening process, that something is your authentic self, trying to wake up, and the feeling of not belonging is one of its earliest symptoms. Let me explain what is actually happening. The human species exists at a unique crossroads in its evolution. Most humans are still completely identified with the chattering mind and the ego. Now, the ego isn't a thing, it's a process of identifying with thoughts, with mental positions, with the story of me. The ego needs problems, it needs enemies, it needs to feel special or victimized. It needs the future to be better than the now. It is never satisfied, and for long, when you're completely identified with the ego, the world makes perfect sense. You compete, you compare, you accumulate, you defend your opinions, you try to be somebody. Everyone around you is doing the same thing. So it all seems normal, natural, the only way to live. But then, something begins to shift in certain people. A crack appears in the egoic structure, perhaps through suffering, perhaps through a spontaneous moment of stillness, perhaps simply because consciousness is ready to recognize itself. And once this crack appears, you can never see the world the same way again. You start to notice things. You notice how much suffering people create for themselves and others through unconsciousness. You notice how much of human activity is driven by fear and lack. You notice how the world seems organized around values that feel completely backwards to you. Dog eat dog over cooperation, accumulation over essence, chaos over calm, busyness over being, and you feel indeed alone, because the people around you are still fully in the dream. They're still operating from the old consciousness, and when you try to share what you're beginning to see, They look at you. Strangely. They think you're being negative, or strange, or difficult. They cannot see what you see, and so you learn to stay quiet, to hide this part of yourself, to pretend. This is where the feeling of not belonging becomes most intense. You are waking up in a world that is still mostly asleep, and the asleep world has no category. For you, it cannot understand why you don't want what everyone else wants, why you aren't excited by what excites everyone else, why you seem to be marching to the sound of a different drum. But here is what you must understand. This feeling of not belonging is not a mistake. It's not a flaw in you. It's not something to be fixed or make sense or overcome. It's actually a sign of emerging consciousness. It's the natural result of no longer being fully identified with the societal script. Think about it. How could you feel like you belong in a world of unconsciousness once you've begun to wake up? How could you feel at home in a society built on ego when you're starting to see through the ego? The feeling of not belonging is simply consciousness, recognizing that it's not the limited identity most humans take themselves to be. There's an ancient recognition in many spiritual traditions, the idea that awakened beings are strangers in this world, visitors, travelers passing through. This isn't mere poetry. It's pointing to something real. The awakened being knows that their true identity isn't bound to this particular time and place, not bound to this body-mind, not bound to this human drama. This doesn't mean you should withdraw from the world or think yourself superior to others. That would just be the ego in a new costume. But it does mean you can stop trying so desperately to fit in. Stop pretending to care about things you don't care about. Stop participating in conversations that feel meaningless to you. Stop forcing yourself to play games you never wanted to play. Eckhart Tolle writes in detail on escaping such patterns. There's an enormous freedom in accepting that you are different. Not different because you're special or better, but different because consciousness is waking up in you. And consciousness, by its very nature, does not fit into the boxes that the unconscious world creates. Let me share something else that most people don't realize. This feeling of not belonging often intensifies during the awakening process rather than disappearing. Many people assume that as they become more spiritual, they will feel more connected to everyone, more at peace with society, more able to fit in. The opposite is often true, at least initially. As consciousness deepens, your sensitivity increases. You become more aware of the suffering around you, more aware of the unconsciousness, more aware of the games people play. And this can be painful, deeply painful. You may feel more isolated than ever before, more alien. There's a sense of being, more disconnected from the mainstream, from the hustle and bustle of human existence. But listen closely. This isn't a failure. This is consciousness itself, refining itself. It's learning, slowly, gently, to tell the difference between what's real and what's an illusion, between what truly matters and what's just noise, between the ego and your true presence. That feeling of not belonging, it's part of this refinement. Think of a caterpillar tucked safely inside its cocoon. While it's transforming into a butterfly, it doesn't fully belong to either world. It's no longer just a caterpillar, inching along. It's not yet a butterfly, soaring free. It's in that in-between space, the space of transformation. If someone asked that transforming creature, "Where do you belong?" it couldn't answer, because it's in the very process of becoming something entirely new. That's where many of you are right now. You no longer fully belong to the world of unconsciousness, of going through the motions, but you haven't yet fully stabilized, inawakened, conscious, living. You're in the cocoon, and that cocoon, it can feel lonely, confusing, disorienting. But trust me, it's necessary for the transformation. So I would say, what do you do with this feeling of not belonging? The first thing I say is to stop fighting it. Stop trying to force yourself to fit in. Stop pretending to be normal. When you know, deep down, you're not. Stop telling yourself that there's something wrong with you. Every time you judge yourself for not belonging, you're just adding suffering to an already difficult situation. Acceptance, and that's the first, crucial step. The second thing is to recognize the gift within it. That feeling of not belonging, it's actually protected you from falling completely asleep, from becoming just another cog in the machine. It's kept a part of you, searching, questioning, refusing to accept the unacceptable. Without this feeling, you might have settled into unconsciousness, just like everyone else. The very discomfort that's haunted you is what's kept you on the path. The third thing, and this is vital, is to find your true home. And here's the secret, the game changer. Your true home is not a place, it's not a group of people, it's not a community or a country or even a planet. Your true home is presence itself. Your true home is the stillness beneath the noise. Your true home is consciousness, aware of itself. When you rest in presence, you are home. Wherever you are, whatever is happening around you, this is the greater discovery. You feel like you don't belong anywhere because you've been looking for home in the wrong dimension. You've been looking for it in time and space, in relationships, in places, in circumstances. But your true home isn't in time and space. Your true home is in the eternal. Now, in the spacious awareness that you are. When you touch this, something remarkable happens. You no longer need the world to make you feel like you belong. You belong to existence itself, to consciousness itself, to the present moment itself. The need to fit in with unconscious humanity dissolves. Not because you feel superior to them, absolutely not, but because you've found something that can't be given or taken away by external circumstances. And paradoxically, this is when you can actually be most helpful to others. When you no longer need anything from the world, you can give to it freely. When you're at home, in yourself, you can meet others from that place of fullness rather than need. Your presence becomes a gift rather than a burden. Let me tell you about what happens as awakening deepens. At first, as I said, the feeling of alienation often intensifies, but as you stabilize in presence, something shifts. You begin to see the same consciousness in others that you found in yourself, even in their unconsciousness, even in their suffering, even in their games. You realize that beneath all the ego, beneath all the drama, beneath all the confusion, the same awareness looks out through every pair of eyes. The same presence beats in every heart. And this recognition creates a new kind of connection, not connection based on having the same opinions, not connection based on shared interests, but connection in being itself. You discover that you are not separate from others. You never were. The sense of separation was an illusion created by identifying with the chattering mind. When you recognize yourself as awareness, you recognize that awareness in everyone. And this is the deepest belonging possible, belonging to existence itself, to consciousness itself. So yes, you don't belong in this world, not the world as the ego perceives it, not the world of competition and comparison and endless wanting, not the world of mind clutter, and unconscious reactivity. You're right. You don't belong there, but you do belong. You belong to something much vaster than that world. You belong to life itself, to the infinite, to the source of all that is. And this belonging can never be lost, can never be threatened, can never depend on circumstances. The very thing that made you feel like an outsider is actually your connection to what's deepest and most real. Your inability to fit in with unconsciousness is evidence of your link to consciousness. Your discomfort in the societal script is the stirring of the dreamer starting to wake. So don't try to fix this feeling. Don't try to make yourself belong where you don't belong. Instead, go deeper into what's already here. Find the stillness. That is your true nature. Rest in the presence that needs nothing from this rat race and from that place. Watch how your relationship with everything transforms. You'll still be different. You'll still not fit in as with the mainstream. You'll still feel like a stranger in many situations, but it will no longer bother you because you'll know who you are. You'll know where you come from. You'll know where you truly belong, not in this world and as the ego sees it, but in this world as consciousness sees it, where everything is an expression of one being, where separation is seen through as the illusion it always was, where you can walk through the dream, knowing it's a dream, and love the dreamers, even as they sleep. This is your birthright. This is what you came here to remember. And the feeling of not belonging was never a curse. It was the beginning of your awakening. Honor it. Trust it. Let it lead you home. But before I continue, let me address something that many awakening people struggle with about the guilt of not belonging. Many of you feel guilty for not being able to care about what others care about. You feel like you should be more normal, more interested in careers and status and all the things that seem to drive everyone else. I want to tell you clearly, there is no should here. You are not failing at being human by not being interested in the games of the ego. You're simply responding authentically, sir, to what is true. For you, the guilt is just another layer of the ego trying to pull you back into conformity. Recognize it for what it is and let it go. Your disinterest in the superficial is not apathy. It's discernment. Your inability to get excited about accumulation isn't laziness. It's wisdom. Your feeling that there must be more to life isn't delusion. It's the deepest sanity imaginable, the most profound clarity you can reach. This rat race needs people who don't fit in, absolutely requires individuals who question the assumptions that everyone else blindly accepts. It needs those who are willing to feel uncomfortable. Rather than just participate in this collective unconsciousness, you are not a mistake. You are a vital part of the solution. Let me share what I've observed in thousands of awakened beings. Almost all of them felt different from a young age. Many desperately tried to fit in during their younger years. They went on dates where they played the social games. They pretended to be someone they weren't, and it never worked. There was always a part of them that remained outside, watching, knowing. This is no coincidence. These souls arrived here with a thinner veil between their ego and their authentic self. They were never able to fully believe in the societal script, and this made their early lives difficult, confusing, even painful. But it also protected something precious, It kept the doorway to awakening wide open. If you are one of these people, know that your struggle was not wasted. Every moment of feeling like you didn't belong was preparing you for this moment. Every instance of isolation was strengthening your connection to what is real. Every time you felt like a stranger, it was reminding you that you are more than this body, more than this chattering mind, more than this temporary human identity. Now here's something important. Not belonging doesn't mean not engaging with the world. Some awakened beings use their spiritual insights as an excuse to withdraw from life. They mistakenly believe being awakened means floating above the human experience. This is a complete misunderstanding of the path. You are here, in a human body, in this time, in this world. This is not an accident. You are meant to be here, not to fit in with the unconsciousness, but to bring consciousness into the unconsciousness, not to escape the societal script, but to be awake within it. Your feeling of not belonging doesn't mean you should isolate yourself. It means you engage differently. You participate in life without being lost in it. You work, you create, you relate to others, without making these things your entire identity. You can enjoy the human experience without forgetting who you truly are beyond it. This is the art of being in the world, but not of it, present, but not possessed, engaged, but not lost, participating, but not identified. And from this place, your very presence becomes transformative. Others may not understand you, but they will feel something from you. A peace, a depth, a reality that they can't quite name, but that calls to something deep within them. You don't convert people through arguments. You awaken them through presence. And this is your gift to the world. Not fitting in, being authentically who you are, and letting that authenticity touch others. I want to talk now about relationships. This is where not belonging can be most painful, when you awaken, while those around you remain asleep. When the people you love cannot understand what you're going through, when conversations feel like you're speaking a different language, many awakened beings experience deep loneliness in their closest relationships. Spouses who don't understand, friends who drift away, family members who think something has gone wrong with you. This is one of the most challenging aspects of this path. There are no easy answers here. Sometimes relationships transform as both people grow. Sometimes they simply fall away as paths diverge. Sometimes you learn to love others from a distance, while honoring your own journey. But what I can tell you is this: your first relationship must be with presence and with your own being, with the stillness that you are. When this relationship is strong, you can navigate human relationships from a place of wholeness rather than need. You stop trying to get from others what only presence can give you. You stop expecting them to understand what they are not yet able to understand. You can love them as they are, without needing them to be different. And sometimes you find others who are on the same journey, others who speak the same language, others who have seen through the same illusions. These connections can be profoundly nourishing, not because you need them, but because presence meeting presence creates something truly beautiful. But don't make even these connections into an identity. Don't create a spiritual ego that belongs to the exclusive club of awakened ones. That's just another form of not belonging. Another way the ego divides self from other. True belonging includes everyone, sees the same essence in all, loves the unconscious as much as the conscious. So where does this leave us? You feel like you don't belong in this rat race. And in a sense, you're absolutely right. The you that never belonged is not the ego. It's not the person you thought you were. It is consciousness itself. Consciousness can never belong to the world, because the world arises within consciousness. How can the ocean belong to the wave? Your feeling of not belonging was always pointing you home, to the home that you never left, to the home that was hidden only by the belief that you were a separate person, trying to fit into an external world. When you see through this belief, you realize you were always home, always belonged, to the one consciousness that expresses itself as all that is. This isn't just philosophy. This is your direct experience when you become still enough to notice. right now. In this moment, before your chattering mind tells you otherwise, you are awareness, you are presence, you are the space in which everything appears, and this awareness, this presence, this space, is your true home. Not belonging is the doorway. Walk through it, and find what was never lost, what could never be lost, what you truly are, beyond the dream of separation, beyond the illusion of being a stranger. At home in the eternal now, the journey continues. The awakening deepens, and the one who never belonged discovers they were always the one in whom all belongs. This is the great secret, the cosmic joke, the beautiful truth. You are not a stranger here. You are home itself, pretending to be lost. And now you are beginning to remember. Let me share a practice with you, something you can do right now. And anytime the feeling of not belonging becomes overwhelming, close your eyes for a moment, take a deep breath, and instead of trying to escape the feeling of not belonging, turn toward it. Feel it fully. Where do you feel it in your body? Is it a heaviness in your chest? A tightness in your stomach? An ache somewhere you can't quite name? Don't try to change it. Don't try to fix it. Just be with it. Breathe into it. And ask yourself, who is aware of this feeling? What is it that notices the sense of not belonging? You will discover something remarkable. The awareness that notices the feeling is not affected by it. The awareness is at peace, always was, always will be. The feeling of not belonging appears within an awareness that itself belongs to everything, is everything. This is the shift, from being identified with the feeling, to being the space in which the feeling appears, from being the one who doesn't belong, to being the belonging itself. It's subtle, but once you see it, everything changes. Practice this. Whenever you feel like an outsider, whenever this rat race seems strange and incomprehensible, whenever you wonder why you're even here, stop, breathe, and find the awareness behind the feeling. Rest there. That is your home. That is who you are. And here is something else I want you to understand. The world is changing. What was once rare is becoming less rare. More and more people are waking up. More and more people are beginning to feel what you have always felt. The alienation you experienced when there were few others like you is giving way to something new. You are not alone anymore. Even though it still feels that way sometimes, there are others, millions of them, all around the world, all going through versions of what you're going through, all feeling like they don't belong, all beginning to remember. This is the great shift in human consciousness that is unfolding in our time. And you are part of it, not despite your feeling of not belonging, but because of it. You were among the first wave, the scouts, the pioneers who felt the dissonance before most others could. Your suffering was not pointless. It was preparation for this time, for this awakening, for this remembering. Everything you went through brought you here, to this moment, to this understanding, to this homecoming, and the work continues. Not the work of trying to fit in. That is over. But the work of stabilizing in presence. The work of bringing consciousness into every area of your life. The work of being a light in a world that is still largely unconscious. You may never feel like you fit in with mainstream society. That is fine. That is actually more than fine. Your not fitting in is your protection, your service, your gift. It ensures that you never fall back asleep, never forget what is real, never lose your connection to presence. But you will find moments of profound connection with nature, with animals, with children who haven't yet been fully conditioned, with other awakened beings, with the silence between thoughts, with the presence that pervades all things. These moments are tastes of your true home. Let them nourish you. Let them remind you. And let the feeling of not belonging transform from a burden into a blessing, from a wound into wisdom, from confusion into clarity. The same energy that made you feel like an outsider can become the energy that keeps you present, keeps you real, keeps you awake. I want to leave you with this. You have spent your whole life feeling like you do not belong. And you were right. You do not belong to the world of the ego. You do not belong to the world of unconsciousness. You do not belong to the world of endless accumulation over essence and never being. But you do belong to something so much greater, to life itself awakening to itself, to consciousness recognizing its own nature, to the present moment in all its fullness. You belong to what is, to what always was, to what will always be. The search is over, not because you found a place to belong, but because you realized you were never separate from the belonging itself, never outside of it, never lost, only believing you were. That belief is dissolving now. With every moment of presence, with every breath taken consciously, with every time you remember what you are, the illusion of being a stranger fades, and what remains is simply being, home, at last, always. You came here to remember this, and now you are remembering. Let the feeling of not belonging complete its purpose. Let it dissolve in the light of recognition, and let what remains shine through you into this world that so desperately needs it. You are not a mistake. You are not an accident. Thus, you are not broken. You are awakening. And awakening has never looked like fitting in, Makri. It looks like you, exactly as you are. Different, strange, not belonging. And yet, belonging to everything. This is the paradox you came to embody, the contradiction you came to resolve, the mystery you came to live. Not belonging, and belonging completely, being an outsider, and being one with all, feeling alien, and realizing you are home. Welcome to the awakening. Welcome to the remembering. Welcome to the truth you always knew, but could not name. Welcome home.